Hey everyone, how you guys doing? It's Tech Tactics here, and today I'm going to be doing part 5 of my 2014 Holidays Buyer's Guide. And in this Buyer's Guide, we're going to be doing a $2,000 computer. Now this is definitely a lot of money for a computer, but it's going to be a very nice, very high-end computer. And in this parts list, we're going to see a lot of awesome parts that anyone would absolutely love to have. So hopefully you guys will like this, and I'll see you guys in just a second after the intro. Alright, and we're back. So now that we got through the intro, we can finally jump into our build log for $2,000. Now finally things start to get really exciting, because now we're going to be moving on to an X99 platform. In my $300, $500, $1,000, and $1,500 videos, we all stayed on Z97. But finally, we're going to X99. Now this is going to be awesome because we're actually going to have an i7 5820K. This is a 6-core processor with 12 threads. That's very, very good. However, with that said, we won't actually see much of an increase in performance in our gaming because a lot of games don't actually utilize more than a couple cores. However, this is going to give us great performance in multitasking and video editing, and it will be an absolute beast. So, it's quite expensive, but it's definitely worth it in my opinion. And with $2,000, we certainly have the money to spare. So, it is a K series, and that is why I went with the Corsair H100i heatsink. And this is definitely going to keep our CPU nice and cool when overclocking. However, if you're not comfortable with going with a closed-loop liquid cooler, then you can definitely go with some sort of air cooler, such as a nice Noctua heatsink. Moving on to the motherboard. This motherboard, in my opinion at least, looks extremely nice. I really like how this motherboard looks and has a lot of great specs to go with it. This motherboard is the MSI X99 SLI Plus. This is a full ATX. It's not eATX, but it is ATX. And it's going to support 8 memory slots. That's a lot actually, guys. That's up to 64 gigs of RAM and possibly 128 gigs. Well, it will support up to 128 gigs, although not many people are going to do that, and I would argue most people won't even be going past 16. But the option's there, guys, and if you guys have this much money to spend, 128 gigs would be crazy. So, with that said, I still only went with 16 gigs of RAM, but we have the room to upgrade if we need to. Now, on this motherboard, we will also see RAID support, we see Crossfire support, we see 3-way SLI support, we see 8 SATA 6 gigabit per second ports. We have a USB 3 header, which we would definitely expect at this price point, and it should be a great overclocker. So that's why I chose this motherboard, because it's actually one of the cheapest X99 platforms, and it looks really nice in my opinion, and it has great specs. Moving on to the RAM, as I already mentioned, we're doing 16 gigs of RAM at 2400 megahertz. Sorry, I had to look at that for a second. And this is going to be by Crucial Ballistics. Now, the reason why we went with Crucial is because they were actually really cheap and had good reviews. DDR4 RAM is not quite used very much yet, as not many people have the option of going on the X99 platform, but we do. So DDR4 RAM is going to be really nice. 2400 megahertz is quite fast. And 16 gigs of RAM is arguably more than enough for gaming and video editing or rendering or multitasking. 16 gigs of RAM should be just fine. If you decide you need more, we definitely have the room to upgrade that with the 8 RAM strips on our motherboard. So, moving on to the SSD, finally, we take a step up from the other SSDs that we used in my previous builds. We are now going with the Crucial M100. However, this time has 512 gigs. So that is a lot of space actually for an SSD, as most people only put their operating system on it. But with 512 gigs, you can easily fit a lot of other stuff on it, and it's going to be really nice to have that space. If you have a couple games that you decide you play an awful lot, you'll be able to put it on your SSD and have some quicker loading times. So, moving on to the hard drive, we are still using a 1TB Western Digital Black drive. 1 terabyte I feel is still enough, but if it's not enough for you, you guys can bump up the space or throw in another hard drive. The black is still going to be faster than the blue. It's one of WD's fastest hard drives, and so we'll definitely take that extra performance any day, as it's very nice to have. So, for the graphics cards, that's right, there's 2 of them in this build. We're going with 970s. Although these aren't the fastest cards, 2 970s will definitely give us some of the best performance right now. If you guys decide you don't want SLI because you're worried, because SLI does typically bring on some driver issues or something like that, you guys can stick with something like a 980. However, you're not going to be getting as good of performance as you would with this. So, you guys, that's a trade-off. You decide what you want to go with. But for the purpose of this build, I did go with the EVGA 970 4GB. Now, these graphics cards, just one of them performs extremely well. 2 of them is going to perform even better and will definitely be able to handle most anything you throw at it. And even 4K can handle okay. There's pretty much nothing right now that can handle 4K at great frame rates and great settings, but it definitely will be great for 1080p. It should be able to handle 3 1080p monitors pretty well. So that's why I went with SLI. And moving on to the case, we used in the same case that we used for my $1,000 and $1,500 builds, the Fantex N2 Pro. This is a great case. It's going to fit everything we need, and it's going to fit everything we need in the future. Obviously, I can't say exactly what we're going to need in the future or what you might need in the future, but this case does support a lot. It can have multiple graphics cards, tons of hard drives, tons of SSDs. It looks really nice because it has a space for your power supply where it goes over your power supply so you can't see all the cords coming out of it, and it has a nice window on it so you can see in and see your graphics card or your CPU. So this case is quite nice. At only $100, it's very hard to beat. Moving on to the power supply, we're going with the RM series again by Corsair. This time it's going to be 1000 watts, as we are doing SLI, and you never know if you're going to want to toss in a third 970 or something else that uses a lot of power. So it's very nice to have 1000 watts, and it is 80 plus gold, so even though it is so much power, it should be able to save you a little money on your power bill, as it is the 80 plus gold. So moving on to nothing, actually, sorry. That's it for this build. $2,000 does get you a lot. It gets you the X99 platform and DDR4 RAM and a 6-core processor, and a lot of people don't have that yet. So if you have $2,000 and that you can throw towards this build, I would definitely recommend it, and you can be one of those lucky people that gets to have this great performance. And yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave a like. I really would appreciate it. And if you want to see any more of my other videos, definitely please be sure to subscribe to the channel, as I would really appreciate that too. So thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next build, which is $5,000. So definitely go and check that out, as that's going to be one crazy build. So I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much for watching. Peace.